In this presentation, we will review payroll reports after entering the last payroll for the month of December in our payroll problem within QuickBooks. Here we are. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. On the home page, we currently have the Open Windows open. You can open the Open Windows, go into the View dropdown, and Open Windows list. We're going to go through the payroll reports by going to the drop-downs up top and then go into the employee and payroll. And let's take a look at the Excel payroll data first. And this will open up Excel. We're going to change the dates within the Excel worksheet here, those being 01/01/21 to 12/31/21, January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021. And then we're going to get QuickBooks data here. On the first tab of our reports, we have the employee journal by check, and that's going to be similar. I'm going to pull in our Excel sheet if we worked it ourselves, similar to our earnings records. So if we go back over here, remember that this data now is not just by pay period, but first by employee and then by the pay period, by the checks within each employee's checks. Note that we're getting a lot of information now, and this is just for employees, and we're running it monthly, as opposed to say weekly, where we'd have a lot more information. So it can be a bit overwhelming. Also note that this last pay period, the 12/31, looks a little bit different than the prior pay periods because the check date, I should say, because the check date here, we forced it to be in the end of the year. We didn't write it the next day so that we would include this data in this pay period. If we had written the check in the next day in January of the next year, then the information wouldn't show on this data, it being more on a cash basis. So just be aware of that difference, and that would mean that we would need to be an adjusting entry. In other words, this report is not based on the pay period over here. It's based on, should it be included in this report based on when the check was written. And so I will demonstrate that more in another example problem, but here we want to put this data in there so we have a little bit more data in our full example problem here. Then we're going to have our information. It's laid out in a horizontal type fashion. We've got the gross check, and then we end up with the net check at the end here, taking out all the withholdings, and that's going to be similar, of course, to our earnings records. If we go through and just double check everything, best number to double check with is typically the last number here, the total. So here's each check total, and here's the ending total for our first employee, Anthony Moore. Anthony has total for the year, $10,160. If we go back to the prior report, we could see $10,160 for Anthony here. There's pivot tables, but yeah, $10,160. And then if we go back to our reports and go to our second employee, Cindy Lewis, $10,416. That should tie out somewhere, $10,416 to Cindy Lewis up top. We go back over, we're going to say, okay, next one we're going to say is Jill Jackson, $10,702. And so there's $10,702 net checks, all the net checks added up. And finally, we go back to the big earner, Judy Jones, $110,711. And that's going to be the $110,711. So you can see this ties out, and just note that this is going to be not near as much data as we could see in payroll, because we only have 4 employees and we pay monthly as opposed to, say, weekly, in which case this report would be much longer. So this report can be very intimidating looking. Also note that we started this in the middle of the year. If we had started this in January, then it would be even longer still. So this can be a very intimidating report, but as we build it in this format, we can see how each component works, and therefore concentrate on each component when we look at all this data, and it's not as confusing when we're able to do that. So here's our employee journal. If we want to break that in terms of the year-to-date summary, it'll give us the quarter year-to-date. This is going to be a bit easier way to look at it. And just note that when we have, it's just a matter of data. It's just a lot of data that we have now that we're at the end of the year. How are we going to break this out? Well, the reports break them out quarterly. That's what we're going to use to make our financial statements, break them out quarterly. And so we'll break them out in that format as well. We'll break them out by check. There's just a lot of different ways that we can sort this data. in formats that we can more easily take it in, double check it, understand it. So, and that's what these reports are in essence doing. Notice they're all pivot tables with the same data. They're just sorting this data in different ways to make it more relevant to whatever use we need. So then we have the year-to-date information here, more in a vertical fashion, like we might see in a pay stub type information, same type of data, hours, rates, and then the deferred compensation and the quarterly. Once again, the quarterly be nice because this should help us and line up to what we're going to see on our 941s and need them for that. Also, it's giving us our employer information here as well, which we don't always see. Remember, that's, we're going to need that at some point to kind of tie out all the information. So that's going to be these reports. If we go back to QuickBooks, the other main report will, of course, be under Reports. We're going to go to the Employee and Payroll and take a look at the Payroll Summary Report. Changing that dates from 01/01/21 to 12/31/21. That's January 1st to December 31st once again. And note that this is giving us that summary data again. The reason this is a nice report to look at is because it's summarized. It's not giving us the detail by check, but it's saying, hey, this is where Anthony is as of this entire pay period, this entire year. This would be like his total check. If it was all just one check, he got this much. And then this would how much was taken from Anthony for Anthony's benefit, hopefully, or Anthony's taxes that they owed and or the benefits, including health insurance and 401k. And this is the net check if it was one check. And then we give the employer information here. So this is a nice summary. It doesn't give the detail we'll need for quarterlies, but we can try to adjust these reports to get that detail by adjusting the date range possibly. And then we have that, of course, for all of our employees and then the total here. So this is going to be one of the most basic kind of reports that we can get and get that detail. It doesn't give us the detail by check, doesn't give us the detail we'll need in some cases, but probably our go-to report to get kind of an overview of what's going on by employee as well as by total. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.